Philippine Sea was calm when the sonar operator aboard the USS Ronald Reagan suddenly stopped mid-sentence. On his screen, a faint low-frequency pulse appeared where nothing should have been. At first, it looked like ordinary ocean noise, the kind sonar technicians learn to ignore. But this signal had a rhythm and a direction. Its bearings were steady, its depth roughly 120 meters, and its speed just under 8 knots. The unmistakable pattern of a diesel-electric submarine trying to stay hidden. Moments later, that faint sound turned into something far more serious. A Chinese Yuan-class submarine, modern, air-independent, and designed to stalk quietly, was inside the protective bubble of one of America's most valuable warships. And in a few minutes, it would make a decision that handed the U.S. Navy an extraordinary advantage. The wrong place to surface. Diesel-electric submarines are formidable in coastal waters. Silent on battery power, they can ambush surface ships and even carriers if conditions favor them. But their power source is their greatest weakness. Batteries drain, oxygen runs low, and even advanced air-independent propulsion systems can only delay the moment when a captain must decide to recharge. The choice is stark. Stay submerged and risk losing propulsion entirely, or surface and risk detection. On this day, the Chinese commander's timing proved disastrous. His boat's energy reserves were dwindling, forcing him to rise. But surfacing just a few miles from the USS Ronald Reagan and its heavily armed escorts was like stepping into the spotlight of an enemy stage. Instead of slipping away unnoticed, the submarine emerged right in the middle of a carrier strike group prepared for exactly this scenario. A web of steel and sensors. To understand why this was a mistake, it helps to know how a U.S. carrier strike group operates. The Ronald Reagan is not merely a floating runway for fighter jets, it is the heart of a multi-layered fortress at sea. Cruisers and destroyers form a defensive ring around it, capable of long-range missile defense and anti-submarine warfare. Overhead, E-2D Hawkeye aircraft patrol at altitude, providing a radar picture stretching hundreds of miles in every direction. And closer to the water, the fleet deploys its most specialized hunters, MH-60R Seahawk helicopters. These aircraft are built to find submarines, using dipping sonar that can reach where ship-mounted arrays cannot, along with radar systems for periscope detection and electronic suites that sniff out subtle emissions. When the first sonar trace appeared, a Seahawk with the call sign Knight 614 launched from a nearby destroyer. Its crew lowered an advanced sonar array into the sea and quickly confirmed the contact. What they found was a cautious submarine hugging a thermal layer to stay hidden, its batteries fading fast. At that moment, the Americans knew they were tracking a boat that would soon have to choose between exposure and immobility. All they needed to do was wait. A deadly game of patience. U.S. naval doctrine in such situations is deliberate. Do not escalate unless there is a direct threat. The strike group did not rush to attack or force the submarine to the surface. Instead, its escorts quietly tightened their formation and sharpened their tracking data. Every passing second made the submarine's situation worse. Diesel-electric boats are like long-distance runners holding their breath. Eventually, they must surface or suffocate. That moment came at 7:04 local time. One heartbeat, the horizon was calm. The next, a dark sail punched through the surface 3 miles from the Reagan's port side, seawater pouring off its conning tower. Lookouts spotted it instantly and reported up the chain. A Chinese submarine had surfaced dangerously close to one of the world's most protected ships. Calm, cold, and collecting everything. The reaction aboard the carrier was controlled and professional. Over the radio, the Americans issued a standard safety call. Unidentified submarine, you are operating in the vicinity of a United States carrier strike group. Acknowledge and maintain safe separation. No warning shots, no scrambling fighters, just calm procedure and discipline. But behind that calm exterior, the strike group's sensors went into overdrive. The Reagan and its escorts began quietly cataloging everything about the surfaced vessel. Radars recorded its exact profile and radar cross-section. The Seahawk overhead dropped additional sonobuoys, no longer searching, but instead gathering every acoustic detail. The pitch of its propellers, the rumble of its diesel engines recharging batteries, the subtle hum of pumps and cooling systems. These noises are unique fingerprints that help identify specific submarine classes for years to come. On the destroyers, advanced electronic warfare suites captured the boat's communications. Any satellite bursts or shortwave messages to Chinese command centers were logged in detail, down to tiny imperfections in the transmitters themselves. What looked like a tense standoff was in reality a quiet intelligence operation. The U.S. Navy didn't need to fire a single shot. It was winning by collecting knowledge. Why surfacing is a submarine's most vulnerable moment? In modern naval warfare, victory often belongs not to the ship that shoots first, but to the one that knows more. Surfacing near an enemy fleet is the most dangerous moment for a submarine because it becomes an open book for sensors. Its radar profile is captured and stored for future encounters. Its acoustic footprint, propeller blade count, shaft rotations per minute, cavitation patterns goes straight into sonar libraries. Its radio and data emissions reveal how it communicates. Once this information is archived, it can be used to instantly identify the same class or even the same boat if it appears again. This is why the Reagan's crew stayed so calm. They didn't need to force the encounter into a fight. The submarine had effectively handed them a gift, a full set of technical signatures to study and prepare against, and this was not a first. In 2006, a Chinese Yuan-class submarine surfaced near the USS Kitty Hawk, giving American analysts a similar intelligence windfall. In 2015, another Chinese submarine shadowed the Ronald Reagan and ended up leaking acoustic and radar data. The 2025 incident was just the latest chapter in a pattern where attempts at intimidation became inadvertent acts of self-exposure. The power of discipline. For the sailors aboard the Reagan, the moment felt surreal but controlled. Jets continued to roar off the flight deck. Operations didn't pause. The escorts maintained a protective wall without threatening the submarine directly. The Seahawk hovered in patient circles, sensors locked on its target. The American approach wasn't about aggression, it was about discipline. That discipline mattered. One reckless move, an unnecessary warning shot, or an overzealous maneuver could have turned the situation into an international crisis. Instead, the strike group maintained its composure, ensuring safety while gathering a mountain of intelligence. By the time the Chinese submarine began to edge away and eventually slipped beneath the waves, the U.S. had already harvested everything it needed. The hard lesson for diesel submarines. Diesel-electric submarines like China's Yuan-class can be deadly hunters when silent on battery power, but their greatest weakness is endurance. Even with air-independent propulsion, they must eventually surface. And when they do, near a well-prepared fleet, they expose themselves to sensors that can record every detail. For China, the message is clear. Surfacing close to a U.S. carrier may look bold at home, but can backfire badly, turning a show of strength into a massive data leak. For the U.S. Navy, the lesson is simple. Patience and restraint can deliver a bigger victory than confrontation. A thought experiment for the sea. This encounter also sparks an interesting thought experiment. Imagine being the submarine captain, watching battery gauges sink toward zero, knowing American sensors may already be tracking you. Do you risk surfacing and revealing your boat to a potential enemy, or stay submerged and gamble on losing propulsion? Now consider the other side. If you were standing on the Reagan's bridge as a foreign submarine suddenly surfaced just 3 miles away, would you fire a warning shot to make a statement? Or trust your ship's defenses and sensors to maintain control while you record everything? The U.S. Navy's answer was clear. Stay calm, stay disciplined, and turn the encounter into an intelligence victory rather than a crisis. Knowledge wins quietly. Modern naval warfare isn't about dramatic missile strikes. It's about patience, sensors, and smart decisions. The Philippine Sea encounter wasn't a battle, it was an information victory. Without firing a shot, the Ronald Reagan strike group learned everything it needed about a potential adversary. Stealth and intimidation have limits, especially when a diesel-electric sub must surface near a well-prepared fleet. For China, it's a reminder that physics still rules. For the US, it proves that discipline and information dominance win the silent chess match beneath the waves. If you found this breakdown of the Philippine Sea encounter as fascinating as I did, hit that like and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, and remember, sometimes the smartest move at sea isn't to fire first, but to learn everything while your opponent shows their hand. See you in the next video.